Good evening. Good evening. This is I'll call the Finance and Personnel Committee meeting for Tuesday, September 18, 2018 to order. Roll call, please.
Mark Williams.
Here.
Chris Erbil.
Yep.
Mike Malczewski.
Here.
Tom Selk.
Here.
And John Duska.
Present.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I apologize, you might have to look at me for a while if you're watching this on TV for a while. We're having some camera issues, but at least they picked the best looking one up here to show all night long.
Mr. Chairman. Point of order.
Sorry about that. Need some action on the agenda, please.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Number 5, action on the minutes from the regular meeting, July 17, 2018.
Move to approve the minutes. I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Comments from the public. Is there anybody here that wants to speak to us about anything that's not on the agenda? Not on the agenda. Okay, we'll move on to action items. First thing on the agenda is a presentation by Green Bay Metro. Allison, do you have?
You had asked for a presentation previously by Green Bay Metro. So Patty Kiwas, their executive director, what do you call it? Transit director, I'm sorry, is here to kind of give you a little bit of background on the transit and whatever questions you might have.
Okay.
So I will give you this. You want to hand it out? Perfect. I think there's some extra.
Good.
Here, I thought we were just going to be looking at you.
Yeah.
Just in the nick of time.
Thank you.
Good evening. Yeah, okay. Well, good evening. Thank you for having me. What Allison had just handed out is just a little overview on some ridership statistics from Green Bay Metro. I have all of 2017 captured on here just to give a little rundown on where the ridership is versus how that compares for services out in Ashwaubenon. And then I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have. As you can see from the system-wide for the year of 2017, we had just a little over 1.2 million rides provided on the fixed route buses. So those are the regular buses that you see throughout the community. Of that, we have 157 stops that are located within the village of Ashwaubenon. And with that, the ridership that kind of goes with those numbers is a little over 109,000. For 2017. Kind of averages a little over 9,000 a month. We're up probably about 500 trips or so per month this year in 18 so far. We're kind of averaging about 6.2% increase in ridership for 18 at this time. But that gives you a little bit of an overview just how the village ridership kind of compares to the system as a whole. And again, that is just the fixed route ridership as part of public transit. When you have fixed route, you also receive the paratransit services. For those that aren't familiar with that, that is public transportation for individuals that cannot access the fixed route system, and that is an application process. It is solely based on disability. And as a system as a whole, we provide about just a little under 49,000 trips a year. Out of that, just a little under 3,400 trips were out to the village of Ashwaubenon. Just so you know, that cost of paratransit is a very expensive program. Obviously, different resources are needed because it is, disability based. So it's typically, vehicles that, need wheelchairs and those types of things like that. And that is a contract service, actually, that we contract that service out. We just provide the oversight of that. But that kind of goes hand in hand with public transit. So that gives you a little bit of an overview of Metro and what we did in 2017. So happy to answer any questions that there may be.
I don't remember the exact reason why we wanted this on our agenda here for this meeting, but
The reason it came up last time was we were reviewing the year-end numbers after finalizing 2017, and there's a fluctuation in the budget due to the reimbursement we get from Green Bay Metro, which is a complicated funding issue, and it's a reimbursement issue, and perhaps Patty can touch on that, maybe to explain that in terms of our number goes up and down. Some years it can be probably 50,000, and other years it can be probably pushing $100,000. It's just, and I don't know, maybe you can just expand on why that's so unpredictable.
Yes, if you see in the middle of the page there where I have the Ashwaubenon local share, that gives you a little bit of a lowdown. As you can see, I put the last 4 years on there, 2014 through 17. You can see what the budgeted amount is, and then what the refund portion came back to Ashwaubenon. So public transit is, it's pretty specific how we're funded. It's pretty much covered by state statute. And for transit, we end every year with a zero balance. We carry nothing over. So anything that we do not spend in our budget goes back to the federal and to the state and each contributing municipality based on the percentage you paid. So there is no carryover amount every year. So what happens for us is we have two very large variables within our budget. One of them is paratransit trips, because it is public transportation. We cannot limit the number of trips that somebody needs to take. And the other one is fuel, which I'm sure y'all can relate to. The fuel amount that we budget for is given to us by WSDOT, and so that is how we budget that number. So those are two very large variables that could easily have a $400,000 to $500,000 swing within our budget on an annual basis. Obviously, when we budget assuming, based on our experience of what's going to happen, in addition to the fuel number that is provided to us through WSDOT. So that is where that rebate piece or that refund piece comes back to us, to each municipality, and that truly can fluctuate. So if, the more we're under budget, the larger the refunds are going to be each year, and it's just a couple of those costs are not controllable by us.
So if I take that 2017 final cost of 145, I can divide that by that 109,673 and come out to like about $1.10 a ride.
$1.32, that's correct.
$1.32.
And that is based, and I do have that number there for you, and that is if you're considering only the fixed route transportation that's
Right.
provided to the village. If you throw in the 3,363 paratransit trips, that averages a little under $27 per trip. That's about $90,460 that was paid for out of that 145 for the paratransit trips to the village. So if you take into consideration that $90,000 of paratransit fees, then fixed route trips end up being 50 cents per trip.
So then on the fixed, with the $1.32, how
Yes.
much does a rider pay when they get on?
Depending how they choose to utilize fares, most riders will use a all-day pass, which is an unlimited pass, which is $3 per day, or there is a monthly fee of $35 for an adult.
Okay.
And then we have different agreements, of course, with the school districts, including Ashwaubenon, and so those students do not pay when they get on the bus. It's paid by the school district.
If I just walked up to the bus stop and I haven't done this in ages, I know you drop the coins or whatever you do, what would it cost me?
You can either do an all-day pass right there at the box for $3, or it's $1.50 one way.
Okay, so it's $1.50. Okay. And does the paratransit rider pay anything?
Yes, by federal ADA regulations, we are only allowed to charge them twice the cash fare as fixed route transportation. So with a single ride being $1.50, paratransit riders can only be charged $3.
$3.
And the contracted cost right now per paratransit trip is $26.91.
Bless you.
So last year, the budget was 238,000, and we got the $92,000 refund, so it only cost us the 145.
Correct.
We also received some funds from the Oneida Service Agreement specifically towards paratransit side of things, because at one point, it's probably been 6 years ago or so,
Yeah, 2011?
they're 7 years ago, they regular transit went out to the casinos, and the paratransit route is based on kind of a bubble off of that. And when that route was eliminated, they no longer wanted that service. It pulled it back farther within the village, and we were not receiving a large enough bubble, if you will, for the paratransit. So we adjusted our routes, and that expanded the cost, and that was the point of our negotiations with the Oneidas. So there is a portion of that that, in addition, on our base service agreement amount, that they also pay towards the paratransit services. But that flows all the way through us.
So on Route 78, last year was 50 stops, this year is only 38. Does it just less stops throughout the village?
It is, and it's just
Big
sometimes
change.
it's, the route is completely changed. Last year, we went into agreement with Ashwaubenon School District. As you can see, the ridership has tremendously increased as well, and that is just, the school is now covering that cost. So when students get on the bus, they just get on with their ID. So what happened is, where it's more of a condensed area now, where the Route 78 was covering other areas further down, which other fixed routes kind of pick that up, so.
Okay.
And just to, just to explain just on something that Allison had mentioned, for funding purposes, the fixed route system is built to each municipality based on the number of miles that we provide service within that municipality. Paratransit is based upon the population. And so by federal ADA requirements, we are obligated to provide paratransit service within 3/4 of a mile of all fixed route systems of each of those routes. So that kind of gives that area of that paratransit.
Okay.
That's a good deal for the person.
It is. For paratransit individuals that can't access the bus, if you had to use private pay, it ranges anywhere from $35 to $80 per trip, depending on the service and what resources you need for those. So it is. And the federal and state subsidy on all of this is about 55%. So that is what we receive each year between federal and state to help reduce the cost. So we're a little under a $9 million budget. About $2.2 million is divided up amongst all contributing partners.
So it's based on your ridership? Repair? That's what the subsidy is based on? Or is it?
The subsidy is based on the overall budget and the expense of transit as a whole. Paratransit is one of the most expensive single line items on our budget, of course.
Oh, sure.
Years back, the ridership on that route for paratransit services used to be about 80,000. That's one of the reasons why we make some of the route changes and things like that we do. So if we can make fixed route available to individuals and give them access to that, then they're able to use that, and we're able to get them off of paratransit to utilize the fixed route. Obviously, it's a much more cost-effective way to provide people transportation.
So any subsidies you get from the state, that doesn't affect our final cost
Nope,
here?
it's
right?
already off. This final cost is already taking into consideration that approximate 55% that we receive from federal and state.
Oh.
So like I said, we're just a little under a $9 million budget. About $2.2 million is what is divided up between the city of Green Bay, the city of De Pere, and then villages of Ashwaubenon, Alway, and Bellevue.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or anything? Well, thank you very much for the update here, and
Absolutely.
Yep,
it's
Thank
always-
you.
yeah,
You're welcome.
Interesting
Thank
to
you.
see.
Have a good night.
yep, thank you. We'll move on to B. What is it? The action on
LexisNexis.
LexisNexis Current Crime Center Interface CAD agreement. How's that?
Good, real good. So, good evening.
Good evening.
Before you tonight, the LexisNexis Accuprint Crime Center interface, I just want to how this all came about. Brown County is currently going through a CAD upgrade, and CAD is Computer Automated Dispatch. The current system we have is probably about 20 years old. Last year, or actually a year and a half ago, the county agreed to upgrade and purchase a new system. First quarter of this year, of 2018, the new system is supposed to come online. As of tonight, it's still not online. They're still doing interfaces and trying to get all the different programs to match. So we were approached by LexisNexis last year to join into this, not knowing how this was going to exactly work. Ashwaubenon was the only department that didn't sign into the agreement, because at that time we had the information that we were going to go online with a new computer dispatch system, and we'd at least get to see how it worked and functioned before if we wanted to purchase it at all. This summer, while they're putting the product together and all that, we were reached out by the Brown County IT department saying that if we came on to the system or signed on to the agreement, the interface is going to be paid for by the Brown County interface of the project itself. So Ashwaubenon wouldn't have to pay in to do the interface. Part of the county project is to do it'd be part of the build out of the program. The end result is if we sign on to it, there's a user fee for software maintenance that's listed here in the document. We would not have to pay that until 2019, 1 year after it goes online. So if it went online today, it'd be a year from now before our first bill is due to use this interface program. LexisNexis, the function of it is it's an information sharing searching program. In Brown County, we have records management system, and there's two of them. One is GURP, which we're part of in Green Bay PD, and the other one is ProPhoenix, which Brown County and the other departments in Brown County are part of. Whenever a police report is generated, all that information it goes into the information, basically like a big storage warehouse for criminal information, anywhere from a car theft to murders to any contacts we have with the public. LexisNexis, the information that's gathered when an officer or investigator runs a person, license plate, address, or anything, will search not only all the Brown County records that are available, both on the law enforcement end, and there's some civil ends for businesses and all that. It also has access to over 800 other agencies that are part of LexisNexis nationwide, and that is growing every day. So as you know, with our population of moving around and being transient and whatnot, the power of having this information when people are moving from one community to another is very vital. And I think most industries, the sharing of information is important, and especially when you're dealing with a criminal element. So what we have before you tonight, what public safety is looking for is we'd like to sign into the agreement, having Brown County to build out the interface, and then as part of the 2019 budget in the software maintenance, we would put in the plan of purchasing the LexisNexis product as part of the 2019 budget, and we would be billed next year for the product.
Okay. Does everybody understand that? Go ahead.
It says in your letter, Chief, that at the time the Green Bay PD was not going to purchase like a...
Yes.
Has that changed? Or?
That has changed, yes. The one thing is we belong GURP. GURP is, we purchased our records management system from the city of Green Bay, their records department. The acronym is GURP. And last year at this time, they were not going to be part of it. And then in November, they signed into the program,
okay.
Into LexisNexis. And coincidentally, but when Green Bay had already signed into it, our budget was already finalized. And at that time, that's why we kind of took the wait and see approach to see when the CAD came on. We're kind of, I wouldn't say handcuffed, but with Green Bay, we pay the user fee to Green Bay for our records management. They handle all the IT, all that stuff. So I couldn't go up to Jeremy, our IT person, and say, hey, I want to jump over there. We'd have to go through Green Bay to separate our records to go over. And so we're more of a package with Green Bay records keeping.
Okay.
So what are we using now, and what's the cost of that to us now?
Right now, we don't have a search engine like this. Right now, when we do a search, we go through GURP, our records management, which we share with Green Bay. This here, when we do a search, it's more robust, where we're gonna get into Pro Phoenix, which Brown County, De Pere, all the outlying areas, that's what they use. So we run Chris Zerbel. It's gonna run through both those programs, plus 800 other programs throughout the country, where you live, where you work at, past criminal histories, citations, ordinance violations. That's where when you see the documents on the backside, it almost looks like, it's called crime mapping, but it's how the links come together, and it also associates of who you may have had contact with at a given time as well.
I guess what I'm getting at a little bit is, well, obviously there's a cost in record keeping or sharing of
Yes.
Green Bay. Do you know what that cost is and what's going to be budgeted here? I think I did see it on here.
Our Green Bay, is it $9,000 a year, the Green Bay agreement, or is it eight? 18, yeah, okay, $18,000 a year, which we went to GURP probably 6 years ago. So we pay a user, they retain our records as far as our criminal history and.
Will that go away then?
No, they still have that. This is.
So this is just an addition to it?
This is an addition, and it's a search engine, so when an officer goes into LexisNexis, when they put a name or a license plate in there, it's gonna go into all the files. It'll go into GURP, it'll go into Pro Phoenix, so all of Brown County, and then it'll also go out to the other 800 agencies, rather than just looking at
Okay.
a smaller pool.
So the other record keeping stays?
Oh, yeah.
And then this is on top of
Yep,
it?
yeah, because the record keeping, which is GURP, we're putting the data in there, and what LexisNexis is doing is extracting the data out from multiple databases.
Okay. And then you mentioned that there was 800 other agencies. What percentage of that is, I don't know how many agencies are out across the United States?
There's thousands, but, these are the, Lexis, I forgot the stat was monthly, how much they're growing, because of the sharing of information, because of our transient population that we have.
Okay.
To clarify, we were wrong. You were right. It was $9,000 a year. And then maybe just to clarify too, GURP is more kind of like what the officer uses when they're out on the road and writing reports. The CAD system is when you call 911 and what happens from that magic kind of coming back down to the officer level. So they're kind of different directions, if you will. I mean, even though they're interfacing, this is more tied in with the CAD system, if I understand it correctly, in terms of when you call and say, this is where I am, this is my address, this is who I am, and the officer talking back to Brown County Dispatch.
You said something was 9,000?
That's our GURP expenditure per year.
Wait a minute, I thought GURP was 18.
That's what we're correcting.
They're
and
correcting
saying,
it.
Nope, it was 9.
I said 9 first, and then,
Okay, so.
We went through our brain
So
trust.
GURP is 9.
yes.
And you're adding 5. Okay.
But this year would go to LexisNexis and not to GURP.
Right.
It's an additional fee, but we really don't have much of a choice. Otherwise, you would either lose capability or have to pay a bunch of money for our existing system to talk to the CAD system.
So
Or if you didn't build that interface, you wouldn't have it.
in our budgeting system, does this come out of public safety budget or is it an addition to it? Or how do you do that?
It's an addition that's coming out of the public safety budget. But I believe Eric
So
said
is-
that the next one wouldn't start until 1/1 of 19.
So
No,
GURP,
we would not be charged until this comes online.
Okay.
So it'd be a year, if it went live today, it'd be 1 year from today.
so GURP comes out of that budget?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay,
It'd be our software maintenance.
sure, okay. Any other questions? We have a motion on this, please?
So moved.
Second.
Get a motion, a second, to approve the LexisNexis interface CAD agreement. Any other questions? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. C, action on image trend interface CAD agreement. Same thing?
Almost.
Good.
Now that you're experts on the CAD and how it works. Same thing came along, except this is on the fire EMS side. Image Trend, which is our reporting feature that we do in the fire rescue service, that we have to report all of our stats into the state and to the federal government. Green Bay and De Pere, they're on with Image Trend. When Brown County was going through the build-out of the new CAD system and building interfaces, they realized they did not include us back in the springtime as part of the interface, and subsequently, the IT director called me about a month ago, says, sorry, this is where we're at, and we would like you to be part of this. And once again, they offered, it was all built out as far as the budget. The Brown County paid for the interface for Image Trend, since there were multiple agencies going to utilize this system. Image Trend, as I said, is part of the fire EMS interface. And what this is that with our reporting system, the interface allows from when during the reporting or at the end of the call, all the information that's entered into the CAD, which goes from the date, times, in which there are multiple times, because there's a time of the call, when the caller calls in, when they're dispatched, when they leave the station, when they arrive on scene, when they leave the scene, when they get to the hospital. There's multiple times and dates that can be placed in there. The interface will actually load, it will go automatically from the CAD into Image Trend without the officer, which what he currently do is put that information in by hand. So the address, the information elements, the address, the times, the dates would be all auto-populated into the multiple screens that are part of the Image Trend product, which in turn, this also, there's an interface between Image Trend and our billing, which is LifeQuest. They take that information for our billing purposes, which is not part of any cost here, but the accuracy of making sure that the timeliness and we have the proper addresses and the people, so we meet the marks of making sure we're entering our data that's correctly, and then on the back end for the billing purposes at LifeQuest, so they can get the proper information out to the patients that we're serving. One of the convenience factors is that with this auto loading of information into the document, it'll put our rescue crews back in service faster. And one of the things that happens at the hospital is that the hospital requires of us to have some kind of patient information of times and whatnot. And with our laptops that we currently have, we can actually walk into the hospital and have that information go from our laptop into the patient delivery area, and then the ER doctors can take that information from there, rather than us trying to write out stuff and try to hand this out to the nursing staff. So it's a more efficient, effective way of doing that. But one of the things that our rescue service is just increasing in call volume, and getting our units back into the village and back in service is very critical.
So there's no equipment purchase necessary for this, all of your current computers and stuff can handle all this stuff?
Yes, this is strictly software. We currently have Image Trend, and what this is, this would be the interface that allows for the information to dump from the CAD into our current Image Trend program, which currently right now is being put in by hand by the officers. And from that information, that's how we're able to do run reports as far as how long it takes us, our average time to scenes, mileage, and all the critical stuff. Those are those benchmarks that the state and the feds look at, or making sure that we're getting to our patients in a timely manner and delivering service.
Okay. Motion on this? Questions?
So moved. To approve the, what are you looking for, $3,500?
Yes, yes.
You get a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion, a second for approval of the Image Trend Interface CAD agreement. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Action item number D, possible discussion and action on issuing requests for proposals for consultants for public safety study.
Okay, I can begin by discussing this item. So really what this is a very preliminary part of a possible process where staff is looking for approval to basically issue an RFP, put together a draft, and issue an RFP for possibly hiring a consultant to perform a study for the public safety department. And really what that is intended for is part of a future, say, 5-year plan on what's going to be happening in the industry, public safety industry. What are some of the national and state trends that are out there? So we can take a look at that and have a future plan going forward for budgets in the coming years, as well as collective bargaining negotiations as well, which will begin sometime next year as well. So really what we're looking to do is, since we're really kind of unfamiliar at this point with what consultants are out there, put together, go through that RFP process. Then at that point, we would evaluate any proposals that are submitted.
What are you trying to study, though? How it's made up?
It would be that, it would be based upon, what sort of data can we take a look at to create efficiencies within the department? What would be appropriate staffing levels based upon what the calls are and what the volume may be, and where resources can be directed. And so,
Or is it looking at how it's staffed? I mean, or possible splitting the department up? I mean, into different departments like Green Bay? I mean, there's a lot of things that, this is pretty vague.
And I don't think it would be anything with that intent. It would be more geared towards the structure that we have in place. But really what kind of department that we have, and then how we're functioning, and what that would be forecasted like into the future, consistent with trends. And what can we think about from a proactive perspective to address those things that may be coming down the pipe, consistent with the way that we're structured and we operate right now.
Are you looking at getting some kind of, I've got no problem with asking for proposals, but the consulting thing, just my experience in the past, my former job, and just observations is when you're talking with consulting companies, sometimes it's because of, things are gotten kind of, how do I want to put, situations are not good. And that's not the case here, I know that for sure. Mm-hmm. But on the flip side of that, it's you start talking to consulting firms, and they're there to make a dollar too. And part of what their job is to, even if there's, and I don't want to say they're dishonest, but even if there's not an issue there, part of their job is to bring a proposal that's going to interest you in purchasing their ideas. Is that kind of what you're looking for, some other ideas, or just getting information that we can use?
I think it would be a mix of both. And I think as part of the RFP process, we would go through and that would be part of the evaluation, would be to consider those sorts of issues or concerns that you expressed as far as what the motivation may be from the consultant. I think that's part of would be part of the RFP process to determine that. There also, I know there's been some even discussion amongst, say, even the state municipal attorneys as far as different consultants that they've used, whether it be for kind of hiring and or organizational type of, or studies such as this as far as operations, things of that nature, or other consultants that have been hired or perform work in the past. So I think the long and short of it, I think, is really that would be part of the RFP process to address and consider those concerns.
Yeah. Okay.
So
We're kind of, go ahead.
there's no money attached to this? There's nothing?
Not at this point. What the why we're here tonight is really to just gain approval to go through the RFP process. We really aren't sure what it may cost, what kind of proposals we may get. That would be something we would bring back at a future point once we would have what those costs are, and it may be such that it would be so cost prohibitive that it doesn't necessarily make sense, or we've got some good proposals that we can bring forward.
Because our department is unique, I think is there only like one other like it in the state?
We're the only one.
We're the only one, okay. More unique. I would suspect you're gonna have to spend a fair amount of time determining what you want a consultant to look at, because we're unique. It isn't like they can say, you know, we did this in De Pere, we did this in Fort Atkinson, we did this in Prairie du Chien, so this is, you know, the approach we're gonna take. And again, getting an RFP, I'm fine with that, but I think you're gonna have to put in a fair amount of work so that you can give them some guidance as to what you want, so they can figure out what it's gonna take and subsequently the charge.
I agree, because this is pretty vague. I mean, I don't have a problem going RFP and looking at different issues, but I gotta give me more than that. I mean, that's gonna have to be narrowed down a little bit before you can even go out for go out for proposals on anything.
I think one of the things the village wants to do is, in that I did some research for the staff. You know, there's some consultants out there that I know I represent 3 departments: police, fire, and rescue. But there are consultant firms out there that within their house, they have former police chiefs, former fire chiefs, and EMS directors and whatnot. And so within their house, they have the expertise to look at them. Because what they need to do is, when they come into a department or into a village, they're going to look at the past, you know, and mine out the information of call volumes and response times, and, you know, how many people are in the station and all that. But they also, I think the important factor is that what we got going on now and what's going to happen in the next 5-10 years. Because as you look across the street, you use the word unique. We are unique because we staff to the level of 17,000 people sleeping. During the daytime, we've got probably 35,000, and then we host a couple football games a year. And our entertainment venue is only going to grow, you know. And so how we staff, how we address those services, because as many more people come here to visit, you know, things, they lose things, they fall down, they get hurt. We have to provide those services, but yet we shouldn't be taking those services away from our village residents as well. And I think that, we are the only public safety department in Wisconsin, yes, but there's roughly 80 to 100 public safety departments throughout the country. You know, and you go to Michigan, you go down to Illinois, you know, some of our neighboring states, public safety is prevalent, and they have them, I mean, outside of Chicago, you know, Glencoe, Illinois, you know, it is around, and that's where you kind of have to bring some outside people in, possibly with their expertise, and plug and play. And you're right, after we find out who they are, then narrow it down the scope and all that. But, you know, there's just it's just like, you know, with this new apartment complex, we knew nothing about underground parking until this last couple of years on that end of it. So, and I think Tony hit it on the head, is that I think we're at a crossroads today, but we need to look at what we need 5-10 years from now.
Is it fair for us to ask for the proposed RFP to approve to go out, so that we can have an idea what you're trying to study, I guess?
If you want to, I guess our thought was, we don't want to go ahead and draft one. I mean, there's a fair amount of work that goes into drafting an RFP, and we didn't want to put a dollar amount on it, because we don't want to say, okay, give us $80,000.
I don't care about the dollar amount, I just want the intent. I mean, there's nothing, I mean,
the overall history,
possible
we don't
efficiencies in
have
the
a
department.
long-term vision of what needs to do. We've done the same thing, and it's worked for us, but that doesn't mean it's going to continue to work in the future. And one of the comments we got in the survey was, well, we're changing, but we haven't changed staffing levels. Well, we're changing, but, you know, technically our police call volume has gone down a little bit. It hasn't gone up, but our rescue calls are going up. So there may be some different ways that we need to staff in order to address the actual problems we're having, and where those, we don't know what those benchmarks are. When do we need to change staffing levels? When do we need to maybe it's shift changes, there's other things that need to happen. I guess basically we don't know what we don't know. So we need a fairly extensive study to be able to identify what that vision we should have going forward.
I agree with that. I think that going forward is going to be more important than what you're doing now, because you've got that stadium district over there that's really growing like crazy, which is a new experience for us. And I think that's where you're going to need expertise from some other people who have done it. And what do we have to look out for? What's our problems going to be? Where's the good points and where's the bad points? I think that's what's more important than what happened in the past.
And it's not uncommon in terms of this world, whether it's police, fire, public works, any of that, or government, of having an RFP to look for your efficiencies and what's appropriate staffing. It's different because it's public safety in some way, and that's atypical for Wisconsin. But there's certainly people out there. I mean, other people have actually come and talked to Eric about what he's done because he is unique in this concept, that are other people doing studies and they want to know what we do, or other states actually doing studies and they reach out to find out what's happening here.
Mark, do you want to see just a basic shopping list of the,
Well, I'm
The-
trying,
the
I read
major
through this,
topics
I'm
to-
listening to the conversation, and it's like, okay, and then on, when you read this, the intent is to possibly look at efficiencies and staffing, well, I didn't know when I saw this, it's like, this will be interesting conversation, because it's like, what are we looking for?
I think part of the issue is we don't know what it costs.
And
Like,
we don't-
if we were able to,
Yeah.
and say we get it back and it's $200,000, well, we're probably not going to do that, or maybe we will, but maybe we then pare it down and say, look at this, this, and this, and let's try and narrow our scope so that we can get something that's maybe a more manageable fee. I think, again,
But it just kind
we
of,
don't know what we don't know.
the first, we've heard of it. I didn't
That's why
know
we're
there,
here.
and I didn't know there was an issue there, so it's kind of like, boy, we want to spend money on this, and it's like, I'm trying to divulge it, to digest it, I guess.
I think fleshing out the items that would be included in the RFP would be something that I think we'd probably like to take a look at. And I'd also like to see anything that's included in an RFP to make sure that if it goes to a consultant developing a report, that the local people that are involved in those departments are primary in giving input, because it's the feet on the ground every day that see what happens, what could happen, and what might happen, and what could happen in the future. And I've seen a lot of reports come out that just ignore that part of the process. I'm fine with the RFP, but I think fleshing out the topics might maybe a little bit more, give it a little more
A
thought.
little more detail would be helpful.
Yeah.
I think, Mark, you mentioned that this is the first time you heard it, but I think in the months coming forward, with budgets and whatnot, and I've been doing this for a few years now, the overtime, and that's a topic. And it's the unfair question, well, with that amount of overtime, can we hire another officer? You sure can. Does it eliminate overtime? Can't answer that, because we've hired officers before, and it's still there. But the thing is, if you hire an officer, what is the most effective way of plugging that person in, into the system to get the most benefit out of them? And one of the things that we're looking on the back end is I bring up EMS, because 5 years ago we're probably running three, four rescue calls a day. Now we're pushing 8 to 10 rescue calls a day. I know that doesn't seem a whole lot, but when we go on a rescue call, we're out of service for about 60 to 90 minutes. During the summer months, we're down to minimum staffing and whatnot. We depend on two things if we get that second rescue call: having call back to the station, which is overtime, or if we don't have the call back to the station, they're not back here in time, we end up with our mutual aid with the Pier Green Bay coming in.
Well,
which
that means
has increased.
you guys live it every day. We don't. I fix cars. So it's like, I didn't know you're having an issue with staffing, so it's like when I,
I don't
We're-
want anybody to think we're having issues at all. It's trying to address. We get asked every day, but we talk about it at a department head level, from a rank and file officer level, of things are changing in the village. I think everybody recognizes that.
Yep.
Titletown, apartments, we have an aging population. all of that. So you have to be prepared for what the future holds. And we can't continue at this point to continue to do the same thing we've always done and expect the same results. That's, the world is changing and we need to adapt to it. We just don't have the internal capabilities to spend the time in analyzing that and saying, what is that point in time when we need to change, and what does that change look
Okay,
like?
so I don't have a problem in doing an RFP and everything, but I would request that by the time it hits village board, you put some of those points down for us so we understand it. The rest of the village
Our
board.
intention was to ask permission, do you want an RFP? We would go draft one, go seek proposals back, and then bring it back to be awarded and say, okay, this is who's gonna do it, and this is what they're going to do, so that we actually know all those questions and a cost and what that analysis comes in. We can certainly bring it back to you next month and have a draft RFP. That doesn't mean when it comes back with actual
Fine.
proposals, it's gonna change again.
Yeah.
So whichever you prefer is fine.
I don't even have a problem if it got to that point, or you're not going to get a draft RFP by village board next week.
No, that would
But
do
you-
it in,
but you
back to
could
you
have-
in October, we could
But you
bring.
could have a lot of points delineated out for the village board that we just talked about, so that at least we get a better understanding of it.
We can do that. Do you
So-
want the formal RFP though drafted, so you're approving the RFP, or you just want more?
I want some more delineation, some more what you're looking for, why we're looking for it, and, just some of that sort of stuff, so that I get a better understanding of if I have to approve a $50,000 expenditure or $10,000 expenditure. How far are you gonna go? How big a scope we looking at? We have no idea. And you don't, well,
Well, I think we
think you
would
guys
like
have
it
a
to be
scope of what
very
you want.
expansive if we can get it. We just don't know what that costs to do it. If we could
Right.
do a full-blown department staffing study and for all levels, where it needs to go and who needs to be where, that would be ideal. But I have no idea what that costs. And so that may be unrealistic expectation on my behalf to say, oh yeah, that's what I'm gonna get, because that could be a very high number and we don't know.
Right, so right now, you're just looking for options, you want to see what your options are out there. Let's get some proposals, what companies can do
Who's
for
capable
us.
of doing it, what would
Right.
it cost, and
So,
sure,
I
I'd like
get
to
that
shoot
part
for
of
the
it, yeah.
moon, and if I can't afford it, I'll bring it back to you with something less.
Right.
But
Yeah,
right
and
now, we need answers to all of those questions. It's one person, keep in mind, that's doing police, fire, and rescue, so it's pretty hard to just go study the police side or just go study rescue. You
But-
really need a
but
fairly
if you said
comprehensive
that,
study.
if you said that you want a complete staffing evaluation of public safety, and it came back high, but that's what you need, and that's what we need as a village, I can justify that. If you just want individual pieces of it because of a couple of minor things, I don't have, I would rather just see a full study done if that's what you need, and spend the money to do it, than do something because, oh, we only got $10,000 to spend. I'd rather not do it then.
In the different conversations that we've had at staff level, I think the thing is we need to put together an RFP because we don't know what we need. That's the biggest thing. We don't know if we need a study done on the police staffing. We don't know if we need a study done on the rescue. We don't know exactly what we need. So if we send out an RFP and we can break it down, we can then, we just wanted to know if you wanted to go ahead with this before we even thought about getting numbers to put into the budget. So that's why we did it.
Instead of going directly for the RFP, maybe the approach should be to contact X number of consultants and say, give us examples of what type of work you have done with our type of department, so that we can determine, based off of their history, what the RFP should look like. So then you'd have a sense of not only their capabilities, about where you may want to go. Because if you're gonna go into a full-blown, now you're talking 6 figures easy. Real easy.
I think that's a good idea to help clarify the questions that are out there. And it would probably generate more questions that you would want to put in an RFP.
I agree on looking forward, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
okay? I'm glad that you brought something forward, it's just that I don't know if I have enough information to say, yeah, let's create an RFP. That's plain and simple.
Well, I think to keep it simple, we want to study the whole department. That we need, it's so integrated, you can't carve it off. And we do public safety this way, that's the way we've done it since 1980, okay? Other people operate public safety in far different ways. There's some where they're police officers, 9 months out of the year, and then 3 months go be a firefighter. Or sometimes it's, 8 hours here and 16 hours there, or 8 hours the next day. There's a whole different ways to slice that cat, if you will. So overall, because they're so integrated, we need a study of the entire thing. Are we staffed appropriately, and are the right people in the right places? Do we have the right types of shifts, the right supervisor, management, format, organizational setup overall? And part of why we're doing this, we'd like to do it now, is we enter into contract negotiations late next year. If we need to change things or have discussions with the union, that's the time we need to do that. So we need a far enough time in order to respond to whatever the results of that would be. We fully agree with you in terms of boots on the ground and all of that. Those people know exactly what's happening out there. Eric is integral to this process and trying to share data, provide data, all of that. So our intention was draft an RFP saying that's pretty much what we want. You break it up. They have kind of an open format to tell us what they've done, what they do. Eric's provided us some names with people who have done public safety studies and some names that we can go to. There would be ultimately an interview process at the end before we'd make a selection, because we want to know we have the right person. So we will do all the things you talked about, and then once we have those answers and the price and the right person, we'll bring it back to you. If you want to see the actual RFP, I have no problem in doing that. We'll bring that, and we're going to shoot for the moon. That's what I will tell you we will do.
Well, here's the thing, and I'm looking at Greg to check the math. I can't imagine that a consultant is going to charge you less than $300 an hour. In fact, I think that's probably a pretty good number. So at 100 hours, Greg, that's what, 30 grand? And it's not going to be a cheap proposition.
My thought that we would, depending on those dollars, we'd maybe use excess funds from 2017. We may have funds for 2018, or we could also look at potentially putting it into the budget. But we have remaining dollars previous.
Regardless of where you get the money from, you're spending $30,000. I don't care if it's from here, or where.
Which is why we're here.
It's an
We're not going to go
expenditure.
try and put all this work into something that you guys have no interest in pursuing.
So this really is a discovery process.
But
For
we'd
us.
like to go submit the draft
Yeah.
and submit an RFP and ask for all that data
And see what comes back.
Right.
Yeah.
We need to interview people, check their qualifications, all of that.
I'm not saying that I don't have an interest in it. I agree you need to look forward. What I'm saying is you got to be prepared for a significant investment.
Yeah, we know that.
But it's the largest portion of our budget, and so it's worth spending money on. It's also our greatest liability, our greatest overtime, everything. So
I'm not arguing
no
against it.
choice.
I'm not arguing against it. All I'm saying is it's going to be a significant investment, and that's what you have to be prepared for.
And that's the point of not putting a dollar amount in here. We don't want to say, okay, let us spend 200,000 if somebody can do it for half that, or don't put 100,000 in, and it can be done for 30 or 40. That's why we don't want to put a number in at this point, because we really have no
Yeah,
parameters. Because somebody
I
will
understand.
give you a proposal and say, this is what I can do for 80,000, because they know that's what your number is.
Yeah.
And you're working backwards.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I'm okay with this moving forward.
I'll make a motion that we approve the request to issue the RFP for a consultant for public safety study.
I'll second that.
Okay, we get a motion and a second.
Do you want to issue the RFP, or do you want them to prepare an RFP for subsequent review?
Well, the RFP, unless I'm misunderstanding, the RFP is not, there's nothing that's not gonna cost the village, right? This, nothing goes forward unless they get proposals back, and then they come to us and say, hey, we wanna do this.
Okay.
Then we can stop it at any point. I mean, to get proposals, I've got absolutely no issue. You keep talking about the same thing about that's okay moving forward, looking forward. This is just looking forward to me.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no cost to the village, right?
Right.
That-
Bring it all back to you with some options and parameters, and we'll know 1,000 times more when we bring it back. We'll not agree or sign on the dotted line or spend $1 before we come back.
Oh, no.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Items for next agenda. John, you had one?
Yeah. Well, I gave it to you.
Okay. Just so staff knows, John wants on the agenda the Capital Credit Union donate, or what they paid for,
And where the
or
funds
naming
flow.
rights for the Bullfrogs Stadium?
We're not a party to that contract.
That's what I
Well,
didn't
that's
know.
part of the question, and that's why I wanted it on the agenda.
Okay. Anybody else have anything?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.